good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green Australian-shaped globe of ours. Welcome to. Why do I do that? Because I know a girl in Australia who's shaped just like that, and maybe she usually comes in sometimes on Tuesday night. Maybe we'll see her. Anyway, welcome to Real News Live. This is the Toxically Masculine Tuesday night show. We have that introduction. We still don't have Steve on it yet, but we're going to be adding Steve, especially since Blake, who was in the video, isn't here yet, but he will be here. He will be joining us a bit late, as he frequently does. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Barrett, in Las Vegas, Nevada, joined, as I always am. You know, Brooks, you haven't missed but one or two shows on your own, you know? And usually when you're traveling, speaking, the very, very consistent man who you cannot spend 4 hours in a car with and not come away smarter, Dr. Brooks Agnew, somewhere in the Carolinas. Brooks, how you doing? And what are you drinking tonight? Oh, I forgot. I am drinking a little scotch and Dr. Pepper. And about halfway through, I'm going to go pull my Dr. Pepper I've got in the freezer out. It's going to be a slushy scotch Dr. Pepper. But anyway, Brooks, how are you doing tonight? What are you drinking? I know it rained today in North Carolina, right?
It rained today, so we did inside work. I did a bunch of trim stuff, and I'm just drinking smart water tonight, trying to rehydrate. I mean, it was rainy, but it was still muggy, and you still sweat a gallon.
I mean, look, let's be honest, Brooks. Hydration is for pussies, okay? Speaking as a guy who had a kidney stone in 2013 from dehydration, yeah, it's for pussies. Hey, and the fourth member of the crew is here, TV's Blake Wally. Anyway, next we're going to go to Steve, because you're late, Blake. You don't get to go next. Join the man who's sitting kitty corner for me down there diagonally to my stage, left, right, whatever you are. The amazing trail boss himself, Steve Doran. I wish I could say Dr. Steve Doran, but I think we're going to have to wait for that honorary doctorate in astronomy that you're going to be getting.
Well, I'm waiting for Brooks to send me my Brooks Agnew University certificate as a doctor.
That's right. That's what we need, is a Brooks Agnew University to give us all doctorates. Anyway, Steve, speaking of astronomy, is somewhere at high altitude in the continental United States. It is a secret location. He is going to be looking at the oblation of Tabby's star tonight, which will prove that the solar fission theory of planetary creation is correct, not NASA's accretion model. That's what Steve's doing tonight. Steve,
hey,
how are you doing there at high altitude somewhere in the United States? And what are you drinking?
I'm doing good. I am waiting for it to get dark out so I can activate the telescopes and see what's going on up there. Yep. And I am drinking a Malta Goya.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Steve, we're going to have to do an interview with you where you talk about your health information that you have for people. And just going to say that he would tell me this is the worst thing for my body that I could be eating or drinking right now. But I don't care because it tastes so fucking good.
You know, you can see as an 80-year-old man how good I look.
I know. You're the best looking 80-year-old dude I've ever seen.
I know.
You can still get a full erection with no Viagra.
And
which your girl has told me on many occasions.
And I can still ride a horse. So I'm good. Yeah. I'm good.
By the way, how is Bob? Is Bob still with us, or?
Bob is he is retired on a ranch where all he does is eat and look at mares all day. That's what he does.
Female horses. He doesn't. He just looks at them. He doesn't.
Nah, he was a gelding, so.
Oh.
He can't do much. But no, he's in retirement. He's probably, they can live up to 30 years. He's already like 26 years old, so
wow,
won't be long.
I met Bob, Steve's horse, once in Arizona at his ranch. All right, joined the kiss, of course, by the fourth member of the group. TV's Blake Wally, somewhere east of California. Looks like you're at the buffet at the bar tonight. This is the bar in the strip club that Blake owns, somewhere east of California, where the girls give the lap dances in the corner. This is the upstairs VIP room, right, Blake?
Yes, the swanky lounge upstairs. It's a hidden room.
So I'm assuming you're closed on Tuesdays because I see no activity.
Well, no.
Yeah, late night crowd. Yep.
This is early. it doesn't open until 11.
Okay.
Right.
All right, guys, we have a lot of interesting stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. What are you drinking? The Elvis whiskey?
Yeah, great to be here, and I'm going to be still working on my Elvis whiskey. Almost done.
Not much to go.
Yep.
All right. We had a really interesting event last night. Donald Trump and Elon Musk did a Twitter space or an X space or whatever they call them now, where basically Elon Musk talked to Donald Trump for about 2 hours about everything under the sun. And it was not an interview so much as it was just a discussion between two guys who have the ability to change the course of the human race. They really do have that sort of power and money. And, it was a really interesting freewheeling discussion. Of course, the libtards went nuts because basically he let Trump talk without attacking him. And you're not supposed to do that if you're a libtard news media person. So they had to go and do a bunch of other stuff. They had to say things that simply weren't true about it. Like Trump and Musk talked about how they wanted to start a nuclear war. That was one that was going around today. And then my favorite one is Trump is lisping. I even had a friend of mine call me, "Well, he's lisping, man. It's driving me nuts." And I'm like, dude, so seriously, there's no lisp. What are you listening to? So the Elon Musk released the official audio today, and which is the high quality audio. And you can clearly hear that it was a problem. And we're going to play that in a second. You can clearly hear that it was a problem in the broadcast compression, that Trump does not have a lisp. And it was because of the denial of service attack on Twitter X yesterday to try to prevent this from even happening. It was a half an hour, 40 minutes late before they got started. That shows you how desperate and pathetic the deep state weenies are. Anyway, let's listen to a little bit of this discussion between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because it was interesting. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to play a whole lot of it, but let's go.
The thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration. And it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good. And after that, it was going to be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey, who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great Trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "That's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for somebody to say, to be honest. Sure. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them, equally. And we thought, my first question was, because I heard bullets flying over me, and I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous, thousands and thousands of people, and there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired. Sure. And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper, because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium. And he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been badly hurt and killed. Yeah. So I have to take my hat off to him, because That's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. Obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have to have in that particular work. But he took aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range, one bullet. If that didn't happen, because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up there with him, so it could have been very.
I mean that's clearly he was very confident in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean there does seem to be some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like there's just no way that how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen.
Well, you know, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people, because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and Trump all over it, and she's screaming. That guy's got a gun. You know, you saw it probably.
Yeah. No,
there's a guy up there with a gun.
It's like I guess for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are basically people wondering by pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun. And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem crazy.
Yeah, well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up. And because of that, he couldn't get to his gun, and he fell down, actually very badly hurt his leg, his ankle, I hear very badly, but he fell down. And he did, from what I understand, he did say, there's a guy up there with a gun, and the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. You're supposed to be a very good shot. My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf, sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah, it's not a tough shot.
No, it's not a long shot. The Secret Service person had the long shot. He had triple the distance actually. So it was a terrible thing. It's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think, their screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of people get killed with those stampedes. We had more people than you'd have at, some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see. And a lot of press, too. There was, many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it.
Yeah.
So, sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede. Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people because it's so different from what you heard. But so.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because he finally said the thing that I think is really interesting. The most interesting thing. Did you see those people behind me? And we're going to talk about all the rest of this. Did you see those people behind me? He said. I want to meet those people. You know who was standing behind him, Brooks? You know who was standing behind him?
Vincent Fusca.
Vincent fucking Fusca. Okay?
Mike Barra's buddy.
The guy who I say has been impersonated by John F. Kennedy Jr. at least twice at Trump rallies. Look, he also pointed him out. He went back to Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago. He pointed Vincent out in the audience. I don't know what role Vincent Fusca has in this whole thing that's going on around us. I know it's important. I know that the Vincent Fusca that Brooks met and that I talked to is not the same guy that is super important, but he is relevant to this somehow. And how bizarre would it be if Trump went to meet those people and he met Vincent and instead it wasn't Vincent again, but it was JFK Jr. impersonating Vincent. And the way you'll tell that is by his height, because Vincent is a small guy, about 5'7", 5'8", right, Brooks?
5'6", I'd say.
5'6", and about 130, 40 pounds. And if the guy standing next to Trump is over 6 feet tall, you're going to know that ain't Vincent. So that's what I thought was real important. The other things I want to turn over to you guys, my ballistics experts, to talk about, I thought it was very interesting that Trump, first of all, obviously he didn't have a lisp. His mic was a little hot, so the S's got a little hot. And I guess if he had a bad connection and there were millions of people on the connection, it might have sounded like a lisp, but that criticism is bullshit. I do wish he hadn't interrupted Elon. I wish he would have let Elon talk a little more because Trump talked a lot. But I will say this: Elon brought up the failings of the Secret Service, the issues of the shooter. How did he get that close? How did he miss that shot? I think that stuff was brought up for a reason. And I'm not sure what the reason is. Brooks, I'll start with you, and then I'm going to go to Steve, and then I'm going to go to Blake. What did you think of that segment of the interview? Just start with, Brooks.
Well, I think what they were alluding to is that somehow a corridor was opened for this shooter. That in broad daylight, he was able to get through SWAT team, local cops, FBI, Secret Service, but there was a corridor left open for him. There were people that left their post. There were communications that didn't happen. By the way, the cop that saw him when he pulled himself up onto the ridge and then he fell back down, he did hurt his ankle, but he ran all the way to his car to get another weapon. And if you look at the timeline, Crooks started shooting 3 seconds after that cop saw him. So he spun around, pointed his gun at the cop. The cop went down. He didn't know if another cop was going to come over the rain gutter or not. He turned around 3 seconds later. He started shooting. Now that shows a level of professional control. Somebody that's been doing this, practicing over and over and over again. And the first 3 shots were actually very measured and very close to the target.
Steve, do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I don't know if a corridor was left open or they actually led him in. But regardless of how he got in, it was totally orchestrated because, a person that is a crazy lunatic that wants to kill the president or whatever the case may be, typically they're going to get caught before they get too close, unless it's a setup. And the reality is, we know that now that we had Secret Service could look out the window and see where he was shooting from on the roof. Mm-hmm. They should have had somebody on the roof in that location, which the former Frito Bandito security lady said that it was too steep, but normally they would have somebody on there, which is BS. I mean, let's face it, the roofs that they're on all around the country when Biden's speaking, are a lot steeper than the roof that he was on. And again, the shot wasn't that difficult. They probably took him out to Arizona. As Mike knows, I train people all the time. I can get people, shooting very well in about 8 hours time. I can get you shooting to where you're competent in about 15 or 20 minutes, but you give me 8 hours and I'll have you shooting pimples off of gnats behinds. So, the whole thing was orchestrated. There's no question about it at this point. There's no reason in the world that he should have been able to get in the location he was in. And then the other part of that is, I really am taking issue with that policeman who ran away to go get another gun.
Yeah, you pussy.
What the hell
is
that all about? If I'd have just had my snubby, I would have taken 5 shots at him just so that it would alert everybody else.
Right. And he had a body cam. The body cam was on. He could have said over his body cam,
"Yep,
there's a shooter on the roof.
Yep.
Somebody."
So why did he run away?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's more than cowardice.
All right. So do you agree though that it's an easy shot even with iron sights?
Oh yeah. I mean, let's face it. United States Marines, they take young kids who've never seen a gun, never held a gun, never had any contact with, any kind of weapon or ammunition, and at 500 yards, they have to shoot a man-sized target. So to take this kid and actually do a one-on-one with him over and over and over again for months, totally proficient.
Sure.
Okay, and Steve, can you hold your mic a little closer? You're a little
sorry.
muddy. You're a little. Better? It's just a little muddy. That's much better. When you don't have to do it when you're not talking.
No lisping.
Yeah, you're lisping a little.
Leave me alone.
This whole thing stinks worse than Jenny Constantine's nether region.
Well, it stinks like a conspiracy.
This is bad. Did I say something? Did I say that out? Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. So the question still remains. This has been memory hold by the media, but Trump and Musk brought it up again yesterday. They have on the order of 1 billion impressions this morning on this thing. 73 million views. This was this morning in the hundreds of millions of conversations, almost 1 billion reactions, responses to it. So this got to people. So Blake, do you think this is being brought back up for a reason? And if so, got any suspicions on what it might be, what the reason might be?
Well, we definitely have to. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have to keep that story alive and relevant in the media and keep people talking about it and keep digging in so that people will eventually have the truth. They're trying to, just wash it out of the news cycle, and there still needs to be a full investigation here. So it's been falling apart. They obviously don't want that to happen. Now it's being revealed that Ronald Rowe, that gets the now head of the Secret Service, I get them confused, but I guess they actually cut some of the agents that were doing the threat assessments. So yeah, it appears that this was all a big setup. And as Brooks said, looks like the snipers were just there to get the shooter, not to prevent anything. And the cop maybe should have taken a shot, but in a way, he kind of indirectly is maybe the hero and thwarted this all the best laid plans that they had just by distracting the shooter long enough to be just an inch off his target.
Yeah, but the shooter wasn't an inch off. If Trump hadn't turned his head, he would have been hit. So he wasn't off.
Yeah, he wasn't off. You're right. That's a very good point. Now, Brooks, there's more to this story that broke today that I'm apparently not aware of. Before we start, I heard you were talking about it before the show. That this guy hung around with FBI agents. Apparently, he trained at the shooting range with FBI and other government people and BlackRock people, and was in a BlackRock commercial. And I've seen pictures of him, and there's this different guy that they say is the shooter. I forget his name, Matthew something. And he's got the guy has like 2 moles right here, and the dead body has those 2 moles, and the shooter Crooks doesn't have that. And so it's like, the picture of the dead guy looks more like this other person than it looks like Crooks. So I understand, however, that there's issues, there's things now going on with the bank accounts, the overseas bank accounts. Tell us
Yes.
about
The Anons have cracked into the encrypted accounts, the 3 encrypted bank accounts. And between the 3 accounts, there's $4.5 million in there.
Wow.
Now, they've been able to identify several of the deposits, $100,000, $60,000, $80,000 in the different accounts. I think they accounted for something like $800,000 between the 3 accounts. The rest of the deposits, they can't trace yet, but they're working on it. They look like sanction payments. That's exactly what they look like. And Crooks was not the only person drawing money out of these accounts. There were other assassins that were drawing money out of these accounts. And they look like these are hits that are put out on political people, military people, financial people. And these assassins are carrying them out and withdrawing the money when the job is done. I don't think this assassin knew, because they've never had a counter sniper at any Trump rally ever before. I don't think he knew that they were going to take him out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. And that goes back to the Kennedy assassination, where Lee Harvey Oswald and J.D. Tippit, the Dallas police officer, killed the president. And then Oswald didn't show up to where he was supposed to meet with Tippit. Tippit went looking for him. He found him. He gets out of the car, and Oswald pumps him full of 6 or 8 bullets, including one right to the face. I don't think Tippit knew that Oswald was going to kill him. So, doesn't this imply, Blake? Doesn't this, or Stephen? Let's go with Steve, because this is a ballistics thing, Blake. Do you agree with what Brooks just said? And also, what do you think? I've looked at the pictures, and there's a guy on YouTube who's like, "Oh no, this is the same guy." There's these 2 pictures of this guy Crooks, and I forget Matthew something is the other guy's name. And the guy who got shot on the roof looks more like the other dude. So where is Crooks? Steve?
Well, first of all, if you're involved in any kind of a political assassination, okay, regardless, unless you're like a Navy SEAL taking out some third world dictator, you can pretty much bet that your life is going to end within minutes of the assassination taking place. That's just a gimme. They're not going to have anybody out there that can get interrogated, they can talk to. They know that by putting them in jail and having them killed while they're in solitary confinement doesn't work, that the American people and the people around the world don't believe that scenario. So to capture him would have been an absolutely no. So, he could have been killed. Again, it's hard to tell. So I'm not going to say there was a different shooter on the roof. But if there was, then he was already dead. Crooks was already dead. So, it's just, and then the fact that they're giving them a bank account to draw off of, they do that quite frequently. It's a carrot dangling situation where they go, see, we put the money in the bank account for you. You can draw for your expenses, anything you need, anything that needs to be done. Take the money out of that account. When the job's over, it's all yours. Well, when the government finds it, they seize it, right? So they're not out any dough. So the thing is that anybody, in my opinion, who was involved in that hit, I'm trying to hold it up. Anybody who was involved in the actual shooting portion or getting people ready to shoot are probably no longer with us. They're probably taking a dirt nap out in Arizona somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a plan. Okay, so Blake, I don't think it's an accident this was brought up right away, and I don't think it was just for political purposes. I think this signals they're going to move on this, and by that I mean Trump and Musk and some other people are thinking about moving on this. From the political perspective, do you think that Trump, that they are doing this to try to expose this? And if they were, this is a good question. Somebody brought it up over here in the, I'll tell you what, I would have said this was planned by Trump and Musk if they had talked about the shares that were shorted. They didn't talk about that, but they did not talk about that. But what do you think? What do you think about the whole political picture now? I mean, doesn't this doesn't this mean that there has to be something serious in terms of an investigation now on Trump's side of things? I'm disappointed actually that he didn't say, yeah, the Secret Service and the FBI, there's something wrong there. I'm disappointed he didn't go after him.
Maybe he is trolling. That's a great theory because maybe they're trolling and they know a lot more than they're letting on, and that Trump would have all kinds of insider info. Plus, he would have loyal members of the Secret Service, not just the whistleblowers, maybe other people that have just come out exclusively to him to tell him the inside baseball, and he wasn't supposed to survive this attack. So if he knows something, he could just be playing around with them and getting the, panicking the deep state or what have you. So we'll see what develops out of that. But historical stuff.
Do any of you guys have thoughts on that? Like, why doesn't he go more aggressively after they tried to kill you? Why doesn't he go more aggressively after that, Brooks?
Well, it goes back to the convention when they played Puccini's Nessun Dorma, the final opera from The Sum of All Fears. The plot has been foiled. The plotters are being tracked down and dealt with, but it's all behind the scenes. The general public doesn't know about it. But Blake nailed it. There are a billion people out there that may have never heard about this because the press has suppressed it. And they don't go searching for it. They expect to see it on their news, but they don't. So them casually discussing this, there are now a billion people go, what do you mean somebody took a shot at Trump? You mean it really happened?
1/8 of the human race heard that interview yesterday.
Let's face reality. Okay, if someone had abused a dog publicly, there would be a blow-by-blow of the incident, of the investigation, moment by moment. Every time you turned on the news, there would be a news segment of where they were at in the investigation, how they're going to prosecute this guy, how they're going to put him in prison, blah, blah, blah. But the president, there's an assassination attempt on the president. You heard about it for, maybe a day, and then they quit talking about it. That's unheard of. It just blows my mind that they didn't do the same thing that they do with every other major. Well, it doesn't even have to be major, but that they do with every other similar type crime.
Yeah, they shot it down. They shot it down with the Biden withdrawal from the race. Yep. Was it a week later? Was it 6-7 days later? Was it the following Sunday?
Yeah, but even the week prior, they really weren't doing a whole lot with it.
Right.
Yeah.
There were news organizations that were reporting that Trump fell down when there were some loud noises.
Right.
Yeah. He's a coward. He's a coward. He fell down.
Right.
You're absolutely right, though, Steve. For instance, if there was a candidate for vice president of the United States who was maybe a heartbeat away, if his girl boss got elected, a heartbeat away from the presidency that once drank horse jizz, you would think that would be a big story. It would be all over the place. But it's just not there. That sort of animal abuse is.
No, he didn't do that. Haven't you seen all the things online? You Google it and they say that's not true. It never happened.
That's right.
It just says that's not true. All right. Anything anybody wants to wrap up on this? Any other thoughts about the Musk interview? And again, 1/8 of the human race heard this conversation yesterday. And the discussions about nuclear war and things like that were very frank and very interesting. And by the way, Elon, I'm just going to correct you on this. Nuclear war would not be the end of the human race. Okay. The effects are relatively local. And it would not be great. There would be a lot of issues, but hundreds of millions or even billions of people would survive. So stop that, Steve. Whatever you're doing.
What am I doing?
Go ahead, Brooks. I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on how many bombs. If it's 5-6 nukes and the mullahs are red misted, the world would go back to normal in a matter of weeks. If there is an exchange and you have 100 nukes, then you have a possibility of a nuclear winter and widespread contamination from fallout, depending on the weather. But you're right. There have been over 2,600 nuclear weapons exploded on this planet, and we're fine.
And by the way, nuclear winter is overrated. We already learned that from the Gulf War when Carl Sagan went on and said, based on all of our nuclear winter calculations, if they blow up the oil fields and set them on fire, we're going to go into a nuclear winter. That categorically, flatly did not happen. So again, this whole like On the Beach. You remember the movie On the Beach? Oh, there's this cloud of radiation going around the earth, and that doesn't happen. If you're in Australia and you didn't get nuked, you're not going to have any problems. Australia is still going to be there. You're just going to have to make sure you produce your own everything. All right, so that's interesting. Maybe we'll come back to that. But we will come back to that in the Ukraine war segment, which is going to be very, very interesting. But yeah, I hate this. I'm just going to say this right now, and you can quote me on this. You can take a video. Here, let me go full screen so everybody can take this video. Nuclear war is overrated. Okay. All right. So, nuclear war is overrated. So something else happened yesterday, which really, really, really got under my skin. And I want to play you a video of a British constable who had something very interesting to say to the American people yesterday or the day before. And let's switch over to that right now. Here we go. Listen to this guy. Really listen closely to this guy. You can.
Country committing crime. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Talk to me about that, because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved. What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard and maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play if people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we'll come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the obs who are causing the problems for communities.
So, what this dickhead is saying, what this dickhead said, in essence, is even if you're in the United States and you say something that we don't like, that we decide is hate speech, and as far as they're concerned, saying, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump is hate speech as far as they're concerned. Libtards all over the world. We are going to come after you from England, even if you live in the United States, and we're going to extradite you and prosecute you over here. Well, I have one and only one thing to say to this concept.
Go fuck yourself. But go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. But go fuck yourself.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Goodbye, Elon. Thank you. Go fuck yourself. Okay? Actually, you know what? Take a step back. Take your dick in your hand, and fuck your own face. All right, I don't have the Tom Cruise clip. Have you ever seen that? What is it?
Les Grossman. Les Grossman.
Fuck your own face. I don't have that clip.
Tropic Thunder. It's so good. I didn't even know it was Tom Cruise to the end of the movie. I think I was like 10 minutes into the Grossman thing, Les Grossman thing,
when I realized it was Tom Cruise. And I'm like, oh my God. And Steve, you look like you haven't seen the movie. You got to see the movie.
No, I haven't.
Mr.
Wow.
Possible, whatever the hell your name is, take a step back and fuck your own face, okay? Here's the thing, though, that's interesting.
Mike, they'll be here to get you on Monday.
Yeah, they would not attempt to do this unless they thought that the Harris-Biden administration would cooperate with them and help them.
I got 4 words.
Yep.
Get off the island.
Yeah. So Steve, I realize you're not a sheriff right now anymore. I realize you're not a police chief, but if an English guy made some sort of fucking court order that says, yeah, this guy Mike Barra, he made a fag joke on Twitter, we don't like it, we're gonna charge him with hatred and export him to England. We're gonna extradite him to England. What would you say to that British constable?
I would say, let's go have a cup of tea. And then I would say, hey, would you like a tour of the jail? And then I would put him in one of the cells. I would go, you have no authority here. You're coming into this country, and what you're doing is illegal. So I would turn it over to the prosecuting attorney and say, give me something to charge this guy with. But I absolutely would not cooperate in any sense of the word. So, and most people wouldn't. I mean, the only way that extradition really works is if you are, like he's trying to use the word terrorism, like Mike Barra saying what he said is a terrorist act. And so as a country, they can come after Mike Barra for terrorism. Well, saying something that goes against the woke, politically correct crowd is not terrorism. I'm sorry, it isn't. Maybe it is in your country, but it isn't in ours. So the only way you're going to get extradited, other than, the Biden administration assisting them in doing so, is if you commit a heinous crime, where people are killed, maimed, injured, that type of thing. Otherwise, they're not going to do it.
Okay.
Or, financial crimes and things like that. But you know what I'm saying? It's got to be a serious, not just what somebody says. It's got to be some serious issue.
Vladimir Putin has, what's his name? Bill Browder has him caught dead to rights stealing $1 billion out of Russia that he never paid any taxes on, and he's 400 million of it ended up in Hillary Clinton's campaign. And they haven't extradited Bill Browder, but he is a criminal of the highest order. And so the whole financial thing, no, fuck you. Okay?
But I mean, he's one of these guys. He thinks he's got power that he doesn't have. And again, they are trying on a global scale to intimidate people to keep their mouth shut and, walk lockstep with the party line. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And if you're stupid enough to fall for it, then you deserve everything you get. Because come to my house, Commissioner, and arrest me. Watch what happens.
Yeah, and it's funny because Musk literally posted, to be honest, I really wanted to respond because it was aimed at Elon Musk. I really wanted to respond with this Tropic Thunder meme, but I would never do something so rude and irresponsible. And of course, he posted it anyway to Tom Cruise saying, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face. All right. There's just got to be. I want to go to you next, Blake. What do you think about this threat by the UK government?
Oh, I mean, it's hilarious, but yeah, at the same time, that's exactly what you guys are saying. They're trying to set a precedent. They would love to be able to do that, and that is one of the major fears if Kamala, whoever's going to be running for the DNC, actually win and get into power and try to do that. That is what the ultimate plan would be. But for those of us that know what America stands for, this is what we fought a war against to get away from people like that. So that's why they put the First Amendment number one front.
Yeah,
and center.
Last time they tried that, it didn't work out so well, did it? Last time they tried that, it didn't really work out so well when they tried to tell us what to do, right, Brooks?
Yeah, that's right. I don't think they have any authority, and if they did come over, they're not going to be greeted very well. They might end up in the East River.
Well, and the only thing I would warn you, like Mike always goes over to the UK for all these UFO conferences and stuff. I might back away from that.
Yeah, well, okay. but I have a girl in Manchester.
Well,
or soccer matches.
go somewhere else.
Mumtaz, I love you. If you watch
Go to Spain or something.
You're sweet. Yeah, Spain might be better. I have a girl in Spain too. All right. Any further thoughts on this, guys? I mean, is it as Blake pointed out? Isn't this a real threat? And this is I would, if I was Trump, I would be using this. I'd be saying, look, you have to understand, if these people get elected, if Harris and Jizz Drinker get elected, this is going to be bad. This is the kind of stuff that's going to be happening to Americans.
Mhm.
Or don't you think they should be playing that up a little bit more? Anybody? What?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Should have a lot of these montages that they could be using as political advertisements.
Yep. Okay. So another issue, another thing that came up is that the Harris campaign apparently is using AI-generated images of their campaign rallies, trying to make everybody look better. And I've got a whole ton of these things. They're really quite bizarre. And there's some people on there like Mick West, who is a noted debunker. Okay.
Yeah.
He's saying, the Harris campaign's not using AI. Here's a guy with an ear growing out of his face. That's a great one. I like that guy. Ear growing out of his face. Oh yeah, those look like real natural fingers. Yeah, sure. Not AI generated at all. Nope. And this woman has two of the same arm.
By the way, Tony Saruga did a cell phone search for the airplane hangar at the time that massive crowd that they showed in front of Air Force Two. There were 4,139 cell phones at that hangar that day, not 15,000 people.
Right, and did you see the clip that I sent you where the guy walked around and they blocked things off to make it look larger, and he walked behind the curtain and they were trying to stop him?
Yeah, and they're so they've got this, and then there's another shot. Maybe I have it here. Mick West, who the thing is with Mick West, he's helped me shoot down the TTSA videos, the To the Stars Academy videos from Tom DeLonghi. Okay, they're all conventional aircraft of some kind, and he's done a good job with that. But he's obviously biased. He's obviously a Democrat. And he's tried to say that this video, let me see if I can find this video now, because I want to go over to Mick West. Let's go over there. Yeah, he's trying to say that video and photographs taken from, let's go to the picture, taken from the Harris campaign in that hangar. Wait a minute, where am I? Is not AI. And a lot of people were saying it's AI. And why they're saying that is, well, if you look at their phones, none of them reflect what's actually in front of them, right? And the other part, the issues that are wrong about this is that the Air Force Two doesn't have a tail number. And I believe every aircraft in America is required to have a tail number. Other people are saying, oh, no, they started taking the tail numbers off a couple months ago.
No,
they don't.
No, they didn't.
They don't do that. That they don't do that. So, and then the worst part is the jet engine, where people walk in front of the engine, which is highly reflective, and it shows pretty much an empty hangar on the reflection. Let me go see if I can find another picture of that. There's like nothing showing at all of the so-called crowd. So, yeah, here's a good shot of it. So you actually don't see anything. There's nobody in front of it. It's empty.
Open tarmac. Yeah.
Empty tarmac. It's not the interior of a hangar. And this guy's actually trying to say that, this is you don't understand how reflections work off of curved surfaces. I'm like, well, you know what? I worked on a 757. I worked on the leading edge slats and spoilers, and I've stood next to a 757 in the manufacturing at the factory and with the finished paint job, and I do reflect off the engines. And there's even a video, I don't have it with me, but there's even a video where some security guys walk right next to the engine and they don't reflect. What are they? Vampire security officers? They don't reflect anything. So they're using AI to make it look like the crowds are bigger than they actually are. And I got to get to Tony Saruga's site, Brooks, because that is really important. They're trying to say there's 15,000 people there. There's only 4,000. And guess how many workers there are? What was that, Arizona? How many workers are there in the Democratic Party in Arizona? Probably about the same number of people who were in that airport hangar, right, Brooks?
Well, that's all he was able to verify. If those other people were there, none of them had cell phones.
So all you people around the country, when Biden and Harris show up, go out, take real pictures, post them online.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, how devastating would that have been if that was a real crowd and somebody actually had video of the real crowd there?
Yep.
It would be online in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
good point. There's no video. It's just one picture. Yeah.
Nothing, just the one picture.
Yep,
Look
no video
at
at
Trump
all.
events. At Trump events, there are 6,000 live feeds going at any given moment.
Yeah, even like 5-10 second clips or something.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, if you know that if Harris and the
Tim Walz, yeah.
Well, I call him. We gotta have a new name for him.
The commie from Minnesota.
Maybe Cum Drinker too. I don't know.
Oh,
Tampon Tim.
Tampon Tim.
But anyway, if they're having a rally, I mean, people really do need to go. Not go to the rally necessarily as a invitee, but go around the outskirts. Film the parking lots, film the the crowd, the audience, and do what that guy did: sneak backstage and show that they've squandered stuff off.
Anyway, it's launched 1,000 memes. That's mine. When you attend a Kamala Harris rally, this is what happens to you. That was a pretty good one. And the other thing we haven't talked about yet is that Kamala Harris picked her vice presidential candidate between this show and the last show. And it's Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, who not only has stolen valor issues, but apparently the rumor has it that he drank horse jizz at one point. And we got a lot of issues with this guy. Let's go through them real quickly. I'll try to. Do you not want? It looks like that image is disturbing you, Steve. So I'll take it down. Oops.
No, I was looking at Dog Meat. Said we still hadn't answered his question. I don't know what his question was.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Like Trash Pandas calls him the horse swallower.
Yeah, Dog Meat. I don't know if I remember you under that name from X. No, I don't know if I remember you. Just so you know, I don't know if that was your question. But look, here's the thing with Tim Walz. So I want to set this up, and I want to go to Blake first. Governor of Minnesota, apparently widely disliked. There is the story out there that he once drank horse jizz because he lost a bet on a prank. He was really, really big on pushing the woke agenda. He was really big on forcing people into their homes, using Gestapo tactics against the people of Minnesota who didn't want to take the vaccine. He, again, probably stole his election as well. I was in Minnesota when Norm Coleman got the governorship stolen from him twice by the Democrats. In both cases, they miraculously found boxes of votes, all for his opponent under the stairs 3 weeks after the election, and the Democrat won in both cases. Just shocking.
Yeah. Oh man.
He also has issues with. Apparently, he was a real big friend of the gay lesbian agenda, big LGBTQ guy.
Wow.
And people have noticed that when he's around his wife, he never touches her with any affection. He actually shook her hand at the rally instead of going in for a hug or a kiss at the rally where he was introduced by Kamala Harris. And so a lot of people think he's gay. And it turns out that he's got stolen valor issues. He basically said he had served in Iraq, that he deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. He was in combat. That is all a lie. He said he was a command sergeant major. He never made it to that rank. He retired when he found out that his unit was going to be shipped out to Iraq in combat, National Guard unit. He retired, which is his right to do, but it shows that he's a pussy and a coward, and he's been lying about it his entire political career, and that issue appears to not be going away. So I want to ask you this, Blake, just to start out. First question is, what do you think about this guy, Walz? One other point I want to make. I think the reason she picking Tim Walz is very interesting. She didn't pick Shapiro. Shapiro had a lot of issues. Tim Walz has more issues, I think, than Shapiro did, the governor of Pennsylvania. So if your fallback position is the governor of Minnesota, what does that tell you about what the ground truth is in Minnesota? It tells you she's losing Minnesota. And she cannot win the presidency if she loses Minnesota. It's that simple. If she loses Minnesota, she's losing everywhere. And I think that's why she got picked. So, Blake, I just want to ask you what you think about all that setup. And do you think this guy even I think right now I'd say he makes it to the convention. I'm not sure he's still the candidate by the time the convention's over. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but I guess they're targeting the Midwest. That's the big battleground there. So that was their pick. They couldn't take Whitmer, so they had to take Walz, which seemed like an appropriate pick for about 24 hours, and then everything became quickly unraveled. And I guess he can escape the scrutiny on a local level in the state, and was able to, this imposter from Nebraska who became the governor of Minnesota. But under the national scrutiny and now being a potential VP candidate, it's gone very badly. And yes, he's been exposed as a tyrant in many ways, lots of red flags. And yeah, the stolen valor one is probably arguably the worst of all of them, but there's so many where he should, tampon Tim, he should just be DOA. Yeah, maybe he makes it to the convention, but I think it looks like it's going to be a liability. And for Minnesota, I mean, they should recall this guy in light of all of these scandals and problems that this guy has been involved with. So, and it should be they should be embarrassed now. Time to look in the mirror. There's some smart people there. They've been just falling in this cult of just voting, DFL or whatever, and the Democrats. And now it's time for them to switch gears. So that's what they do.
I think Trump won Minnesota in 2020, quite frankly. I think he won for a while. Steve Doran, what do you think of Tim Walz? And do you think a closeted gay man who lied about his military record to get elected to public office should be a heartbeat away from the presidency?
Absolutely not. I mean, let's face reality. I mean, the guy could have went forward and said, hey, I've done 30 years as a Marine Corps Reserve or whatever he's done. And, it's still honorable. I mean, let's face reality. You don't have to be in a special operations unit or MARSOC or any of that stuff. We need everybody that participates in the military service, from the guy who's, packing up meals to the people who are, shipping the equipment back and forth. All of those people are very necessary to make any mission come off as it should. So what he was doing for years and years was very honorable. There's no reason to add in all this nonsense. And if you do, that tells me that throughout his military career, he's been doing, and he's a reserve. He wasn't a full-time Marine.
Yeah.
But that tells me that he's been doing it his whole career.
Well, when they went to
it's like Joe Biden talking about being given a scholarship and being I mean, it's the same crap. And he's sitting in the office of the president.
Well, yeah, it's amazing when he went from being a play soldier to wanted to make him a real soldier. He retired real quick.
Exactly.
Brooks, what do you think about this guy? I think he's a huge net drag on the campaign. And by the way, I'm going to remind you, I don't have a lot of time to talk about the polls, but Rasmussen and his spokesman keep talking about why are we the only ones that have done any polling since she picked this Tim Walz guy? None of the other liberal media polls, there's a lot of fake push polls. They're not actually polling anybody since she picked Walz. They're still trying to say, she had this bounce after she was announced as a Democratic candidate, which may or may not be true. I tend to think it's not true. So what, I mean, do you think this guy's a net drag on the campaign, and her campaign's already bad enough? Do either one of them come out of the Democratic National Convention as the candidate for president or vice president? Brooks, what do you think?
Well, vice presidents typically don't have much of a bully pulpit while they're vice president. So once Joe Biden stepped down, Kamala Harris should have come out and said, okay, now I want to show the American people what I can really do. but she's been AWOL for 23 days. She doesn't give any interviews at all. I don't think she picked Walz. I think Walz was picked for her. I think Cooper and Gay and all these, Gavin Newsom and Big Gretch, I think they all backed out because they said, no, wait, if Kamala's in, I'm out. I think what they did is they picked Walz for her to force it into a brokered convention. When we go to the convention, it's all hands on deck. And then you're going to see the big sharks come out and you're going to see Kamala Harris evaporate. She's not going to get any votes at all. Right now, she has the superdelegates because the FEC is temporarily allowing all this money to stay in that account.
Right.
But if the FEC steps forward and says, no, we can't have foreign money. You can't have these smurfing accounts. All these funds are frozen.
Right.
The DNC's broke. They're broke. So they have to go to a brokered convention, and that's where the free-for-all begins.
A brokered convention. Yeah. The thing is that we all know who's really running everything.
Right.
It's not Joe Biden.
No.
It's Barack Obama. Barack Obama reportedly didn't want Kamala Harris. So did he push Tim Walz on her, knowing that all this stuff would come out, to discredit her campaign, make her look like an idiot for picking a horse jizz drinking vice president who's gay and lied about his military record? Do you think that's a scenario here, anybody? Pliable scenario that Obama actually wants all of them knocked out by the convention? I don't know, pave the way for Big Mike, or what's the plan after that? Any thoughts?
It's possible. I think Eric Holder was doing the vetting on that, but some people were criticizing they should have used David Axelrod to be more thorough. But
Axelrod's been critical of the selection.
Mm-hmm.
Brooks, any thoughts?
Well, I think what they're trying to do is create a presidential race that really doesn't have any viable candidates. They wanted to kill Trump, and they're going to try again. And we had Jamie Raskin come out and say, look, if you elect him, we're going to refuse to seat him, and we are going to fight immediately before he's inaugurated, and you're going to see a civil war.
Which is ultimately, I think, what they want. But yeah, I mean, it's weird, Jennifer Flaw-Doring, my co-host on my Monday and Wednesday shows, remote viewer, psychic, call her what you want. She said, I don't see an actual election in the fall. And I'm like, we're kind of headed that way. Now, Brooks, you think the same thing for completely different reasons, but it's
yeah, I mean, I think they're going to say, wait a minute, you can't have an election with only one candidate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
well, yes, yeah.
We're not going to have an election. They'll do something. They'll write an executive order.
Now, here's another scenario for you, which I think is pretty interesting. Joe Biden actually did an interview the other day. Joe Biden, Dementia Joe, who is one step away from being removed on the 25th Amendment, did an interview the other day. That's one more interview than Kamala Harris has done since she got picked. Let's listen to what Dementia Joe had to say.
Look, the polls we had showed that it was a neck-and-neck race. Would have been down to the wire. But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did someone, and I thought it'd be a real distraction. Look, the polls.
People are now saying, guys, they're now saying that they think Joe is going to jump back in at the convention. What do you think about that?
That's what happened in 1940.
Yeah, well.
And Roosevelt wasn't even on the ballot. And he won 86% of the delegates at that brokered convention.
I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Steve? Do you think they've obviously improved on Joe? He's gained about 6 inches in height, and got a new Joe out there.
He's looking good. Could
new Joe do better than old Joe and better than Kamala?
Possibly. I mean, the deep state is going to appoint whoever they want. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. whoever they say is going to, take those positions, those are the people that are going to get selected at the Democratic National Convention, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, Blake, any thoughts on this particular subject? Do you think Joe jumps back in?
I think he probably wants to, and his family probably wants to, but I don't see how anybody would let him not the top of the DNC. I think he's done, and I just don't think there's any enthusiasm. And you had a lot of Democrats that have already like kind of come out and admit like, oh, we're glad that he finally stepped aside, even though they pretended like he's sharp and everything's great. But privately, they knew he was. They weren't. So I think they'll find somebody else to get some enthusiasm, whether it's Kamala or whether they sabotage. Maybe you're right. They're going to Obama sabotaged it, and he's going to pave the way for Michelle or something. I have no idea. They got to have something out of left field to get the basics.
Well, Kamala's STDs could get worse, and she may have to step down prior to the convention, and they may need to appoint somebody else.
Yeah. Well, I hear that's the rumor that actually there's going to be.
Well, you heard her niece is raking in the cash on a Hunter Biden style job with her law degree.
That's nuts. Yeah. All right.
Kamala never had any kids because she had so many abortions. She's sterile.
Yeah. Yeah. As
and we want her in office.
As Antonio Montana put it in the movie Scarface, your womb is polluted. Okay. Polluted. All right. I can't do an Al Pacino accent, but guys, something else happened this week that is pretty interesting. There was a team of doctors in Brazil on their way to a major medical conference on board a plane, and this is what happened to the airplane.
Isso, velho. Tá porra. Caralho, bicho. Nó. Fudeu. É doido. Caralho, moleque. Tá louco, bicho. Que isso, irmão?
Okay, so what I understand is that there were 8 doctors on that plane. There were supposed to be 16, and 8 of them got on a different flight. They were all apparently going to a medical conference in Sao Paulo to report, at least this is what I hear, or what I've seen in the news, that mRNA vaccinations, the vaccinations are poison and they're causing in other words, they were going to call out the entire pharmaceutical industry, and guess what? Their plane crashed. That's an Embraer plane, I believe. It's Brazilian. Those are really solid commercial planes.
Yeah, Embraers rarely have problems. They can fly with one engine.
Yeah.
That was
and how does a plane get in a flat spin like that? Something breaks in the control systems. That's the only way it happens. But Brooks, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, this really raises a lot of flags. It happens. I think it's an assassination to wipe these people out so they couldn't testify. There are still doctors on the team, and of course now I think they're all underground running for their lives. But we're talking about $1 trillion, multi-trillion-dollar expose here, and we already know it here in the United States. Of course, Google even suppresses the word COVID. Even on social media, you can't even use the acronym COVID anymore. We're talking about every 40 seconds in the United States, the CDC issued a report, a jabber, that's someone who's had the vaccine plus boosters, has a stroke every 40 seconds.
Wow.
There are 86,000 seconds in a day.
Wow, that's not good. Steve or Blake, did you guys track this story at all? I mean, I wish I had a little more to give you in terms of preparation, but
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this, Steve?
The only thing I heard was that they not only were they going to expose the jab, but they also said they were going to expose that there are multiple cures for cancer that don't involve radiation, by the way. None of them do.
Yeah.
And so they didn't want that getting reported to the press, so they had to take them out somehow.
Yeah, because you can't have that.
You can't have a 25-cent cure.
No.
Right.
Yeah, the listener has a valid point. That's an ATR 72, not an Embraer.
Oh, okay. I know Embraer makes a plane that looks like that, and it was Brazil, so I assumed it was Embraer. So thank you for that. Either way, here's what I tell people. This is how I became a conspiracy theorist. It was TWA 800. And when we saw the wreckage of TWA 800 on the news, I said to my then wife, she said, what could cause that? And I said, airplanes do not fall out of the sky for no reason. It's either a bomb or a missile or sabotage. And given that it was on fire, I assumed it was a bomb or a missile. And of course, I was right about that. So this looks like sabotage to me. I don't know how a plane gets in a flat spin like that.
Not that quickly.
No. And he was at low, I don't know. I don't know how that happens.
If we have any commercial pilots out there, it'd be good for them to know.
This ain't Top Gun. This ain't Top Gun. This ain't, oh, Mav, we're in a flat spin, Mav. We better eject. They're not doing those kinds of maneuvers, so you can get into a flat spin. Brooks,
that happens when you get vertical air over the wings. It loses lift. But when you go into a flat spin, the way to get out of it, whichever way you're spinning, is to turn the ailerons the opposite way and push the nose forward to get your airspeed back up.
Yeah.
But maybe it couldn't get airspeed because they lost pitch control on their blades. They have a variable pitch propeller.
Yeah.
That propeller goes flat. You have no thrust.
Yeah. I think this is a story that bears watching in the future. Blake, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, like Steve, I'd heard this was some, a cancer thing they had invented. Without going into too much detail, I just kind of on the surface heard, they're going to create a cure for cancer. So of course you can never threaten the drug cartel, but whether it was vaccines or cancer or anything like that, that's what's going to happen to you if you threaten their livelihood. So it's not about uplifting people. It's about
8 separate airplanes.
Yeah.
8 separate flights.
Right. So I think that's a story that bears watching. Okay, hey, I have some breaking news here, guys. I have the first picture ever taken of Donald Trump, Willie Brown, and Kamala Harris from the 1990s. Check this out.
Wow.
Camilla's
under the table. Is that the deal?
That's what, yeah. Good one, Steve. You're on top of it, Steve. Yep. That's good. Actual photograph of Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, and Willie Brown. Okay, guys, that's it for what I wanted to talk about tonight. Let's go into what we think might happen in the next week. Let's go with some more predictions. Any thoughts? We're heading into the convention next Monday, so we'll be in day 2 of the freak show. It ought to be weirder than the Olympic opening and closing ceremonies there in Chicago. Yeah. Yep. Recreating the 1968 chaos in Chicago. Blake, you have any predictions for next week about, it doesn't have to be about the convention, just anything in the next, between now and next Tuesday that you think is going to go on?
Well, I'll stay on the convention. How about one of them, whether it's Kamala or Walz, one of them will be removed somehow, whether by delegates, the party, they drop out.
Yeah.
One major change.
That's my prediction. At least one, maybe both, but I think both is a possibility. But I agree with you. Minimum of one of the two of them is removed before we ever get to the nominating process. I do not think Harris Walz will be the ticket on Thursday night when they leave the convention. Steve, any thoughts about anything that might happen in the news this week or anything you think we should watch?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting, and that I will be tuning in to the Democratic National Convention to see all the freak show going on. And our theme next week will be The Day Chicago Died.
The night Chicago died.
The night Chicago died.
That's a video, yeah. God, I don't know if I can stand playing that song, but maybe I should go get it. Dr. Brooks Agnew, any predictions for the next week?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they're not going to have a live convention. I think they're going to go to a virtual convention. There's a wild card out there, and it's the Palestinian protesters. They're threatening to burn the damn city down during the convention, and I think they're going to use it as an excuse to go virtual.
Yep,
Okay.
I was just saying that with all the violence going on, they're probably going to use it as some type of an excuse.
Yeah. You know what? There is one other issue I forgot to bring up, and you would think World War III would be an issue, Brooks, but there is the Iran attack on Israel we have to watch out for, and then I wanted to ask you about this. I have video. Where is my video? Putin. Putin, there were rumors that Vlad was going to come out and say, you bombed a nuclear power plant. We're now going to escalate to a full invasion of Ukraine and we're going to destroy it. He didn't quite say that, but he did say this a couple days ago, and I wanted to get your impression of it. Let me actually go to turn that one off.
By the way, while we're waiting, Laura, the reason that we have to watch that kind of stuff is because we are reporting the news directly to you, and if we don't watch it, we can't report it.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch
of the Ukrainians. They're trying to improve their negotiating positions in the future. But what negotiations could we even talk about with people who are attacking civilian infrastructure, or trying to create threats for nuclear industry facilities? What is there to even talk about with them?
Okay, hey, we're back. All right, that didn't work as well technically as I'd like it to, but Brooks, I want to get your impression. Zelensky's saying we took back 76 towns from the Russians, which is, I think, probably extreme bullshit. I don't think NATO even has enough force on the ground. There are military jets now, American military jets in Ukraine. Vlad said, look, if you're going to bomb nuclear plants, we're going to go to war. He stopped short of actually declaring war on Ukraine, which he never had. But what do you think about this escalation of events where NATO...
I'm worried about the escalation. The F-16s are an escalation. Of course, they've been blowing them up on the ground. There are some fake reports out there that the F-16s did an incursion and blew up an air base in Russia.
Right.
If there was, it was very minor. I saw some video from it. I think it was from a video game, not a real video. If that happens, if they actually are doing incursions inside of Russia with Ukrainian troops, not NATO troops, Putin will lock Kiev down. He'll just take the whole country, and there's nothing they can do to stop it.
Nope.
Relative to Iran, the big story is that they have all their missiles pointed in the right direction. They have hypersonic missiles. They have Korean nukes, and they're going to shoot them at Israel. Here's the deal. We have a nuclear submarine that's now in striking range of Tehran. The mullahs only make up about 8% of Iran. 8%. If you're going to go to war, you need two things. First, you need the right weaponry. And the second, you need national resolve.
Right.
They don't have it. They don't have it. So if the mullahs do anything, you're going to see a big mullah red mist, and it's going to be over in about 4 hours.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts about the escalating war in Ukraine? I think Vlad's dead serious about this. I think he's had enough. And I expect that, look, it's the ideal time, right? If Iran and Israel get into it, then it's the ideal time for Russia to go on the offensive, the ideal time for China to go after Taiwan. And you've got this bumbling, stumbling idiot as, quote, commander-in-chief. Perfect time this next week, right?
A comedian in charge of the Ukraine.
A comedian.
But, the reality is any major superpower, which Russia is still a superpower, who is attacked and they feel like they're going to be overrun, it's going to be all over but the crying. They're going to take everything they've got and totally decimate the Ukraine. So they're not going to stand by and go, oh, yeah, just walk in and take us over. And let's face reality, most of the images and things that come out of Ukraine are bullshit.
Yeah.
And normally I don't cuss on the show, but I'm going to say it again. Bullshit.
Yeah, there is bad.
Life in the Ukraine is almost like it has been all along.
Yeah. Well,
nothing's changed.
That could get changed in the next week. And again, the point is, these are Romulans. If you run away from them, you guarantee war. Oh, sorry, that's Star Trek. These are Russian. You provoke them and you guarantee war. Look, I think they went after a nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia. I think Putin's had enough. I think we're headed toward really interesting stuff. Yeah, Zelensky plays the piano. He's a comedian and he plays the piano with his penis. He did that well.
Yeah, he can only reach the white keys though.
But he's
Hey, maybe Tampon Tim and him should get together.
Tampon Tim and Zelensky would be a great Kamala. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up. We don't know what's going to happen. I think my tacos are here. Love you. Thanks for being here. I'll be back tomorrow with Jennifer. We'll talk about, I think, the escalating war in the Middle East. Everybody and in Ukraine and in China. Everybody have a great Tuesday night. Be masculine, men. Be masculine. Remember, when a woman nags you, when your woman gets in your face, she just wants you to stand up and be a man and take charge. Grab her hair, give her a little spanking, show her who daddy is. That's what she wants.
Dating advice from Mike Vera.
Dating advice from Mike Vera, who's like
that will get you killed.
It works every time. If she's in your face, she just wants you to stand up to her. You don't have to, you don't have to spank her, but she'll like it if you do. All right. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one. I will see you tomorrow. I'm doing Whiskey and Wisdom, I think, with Mark, and I'm going to do the show with Jen